realms.
This is Immortal Unchained. I must admit, it took me by complete surprise. I know nothing about it. Me and Jay were in a game shop, he picked it up off the shelf, looked at me and said, "What the hell is this?" Well, for the low price of £20, I decided it was worth a look. So what is it? Well, it's a clone of Dark Souls. If you've never heard of Dark Souls, it's a series of games set in a fantasy world with a strategic sword combat and difficulty that will make even the most seasoned gamers sweat.
Uh-oh. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
What the fuck?! What the fuck was that?! But Immortal has one notable difference. It's got guns. Yes, it's a gritty sci-fi shooter with a Dark Souls playstyle. So why then has this game been given low scores and critically slammed by most established reviewers? Well, I can only surmise that it's because it's been hit with the tagline, "It's Dark Souls with guns." I mean, I just said it too. As soon as you say a game is like Dark Souls, people immediately will compare it to Dark Souls. Immortal makes no effort to hide where its influences have come from, and it's certainly had people comparing it in ways I think are a little unfair. So I'm going to do my best to give this game the critique it deserves. Now, to begin with, I have to tell you, it's fucking hard, it's punishing, it's glitchy in places, and oh my god, is it punishing. Yes, I said that twice because it's really worth mentioning. It will make you want to cry. Cry and walk away. You'll come back, it'll remind you of why it made you cry in the first place, make you cry again, and then tell you that you're worthless and should quit playing games altogether. You piece of shit. Now that's out of the way, let's begin and deep dive into Immortal Unchained on the PlayStation 4. The aiming of the guns is handled automatically, with you locking onto enemies that are within the current weapon's range. You can also free aim and fire, but this takes a lot of getting used to as the controls are very loose and a bit rapid. You can then open fire and inflict damage, close the distance, and you can seal a kill with a melee attack. There's a health meter, a stamina gauge, and the energy gauge that allows you to perform the current weapon's secondary firing mode at the cost of said energy. So how about the difficulty? Self-admitting here, I'm not the best at Souls games, but I'd have to say Immortal Unchained is probably the hardest time I've ever had with this type of gameplay, and that's for one reason only. The enemy AI is deadly accurate with guns. Almost to the point of it being unfucking fair. Every insignificant enemy will make you feel like a little bitch and won't hesitate to destroy you. They never miss, they never relent, and they always seem to outrange you no matter what. I even had a sniper rifle, still outranged. Add to this some enemies that are melee focused and you have a melting pot of frustration that will trigger emotions that you never even knew you had. The bosses though, by comparison, aren't that tough. I know that Dark Souls infamously has some of the most hated and feared boss fights in gaming, and Immortal has them too, but they seem to be balanced a lot more with the regular enemies. I'm not kidding when I say that most standard enemies, especially when in groups, feel like boss fights. The punishing aspect comes from constantly having to learn enemy patterns and placements to find the most optimal way of dealing with them with the weapons and playstyle you have chosen to adopt. In Dark Souls, you level up by killing enemies and earning souls. If you die, you drop all the souls you are carrying on the ground. You have a chance to get back to the spot where you died to recover them, but if you die a second time on the way, they're gone for good. This works the same in Immortal, except souls are called bits. Riveting. A lot of my time in Dark Souls was spent running past groups of enemies to get back to the point where I died to reclaim my souls. A lot of players do this, and it's a good way to keep progression at a nice pace despite the setbacks. With Immortal Unchained, however, this strategy is just not possible, or it's so risky that it's just not worth attempting. The enemies with guns, as stated previously, will tear you apart faster than you can say, "Oh shit!" Honestly, you'd have a better chance at being successful on YouTube than running through a group of enemies in this game. So naturally, you die. You have to make the slow, methodical progression back to where you died to recover your lost bits, or you risk losing it all from being shot in the back from a mile away by a sniper. Oh yeah, there's sniper enemies in here too. They can teleport, they can one-shot you, and they can also show up in groups. No joke. So what about the environments? Well, the nice thing about the levels, or areas, is that they all feel different. You'll be fighting in snowy mountains, industrial buildings, forests, undead gothic ruins, and sci-fi city locations. It makes the game feel like it's set over a much vaster world than Dark Souls, which all looks the same. It's personal to me, but I prefer games that take you through many different looking locations, rather than one place that looks the same from beginning to end. Within the areas, there are many hidden paths and areas to explore. These can give you shortcuts or ways around that will give you a better tactical position to handle enemies. Also, you can find some tasty weapons or consumables to make your journey a little more bearable. So it's worth looking around in every nook and cranny. There's nothing more satisfying than going through a hidden shrub to discover an obelisk that you can save at or level up. Talking of leveling up, you earn bits by killing enemies, and then you use these bits at obelisks to upgrade your character. So there's your kind of Dark Souls, souls and campfires. You get it, you get it. The character leveling is nowhere near the complexity of its Souls cousins, but it works well enough with clear stats and descriptions and a very clean and simple UI. Nothing offensive there. You can upgrade guns with parts you find or gain from scrapping other weapons. It'll increase the damage output and stability damage rating. This increases the speed at which you can stagger your opponents. It turns out that's quite important to gain the upper hand with a lot of fights, and I totally didn't overlook this and get horrendously stuck. You can also add these ciphers to the character that will boost attributes like adding extra health or give additional damage boosts to certain weapon types. Want to focus on speed? Well, you can equip SMGs and add a cipher that grants SMGs additional damage. Couple that with a cipher that increases dodge speed and you can see how you can easily tailor your character to how you want to play. But here's where I have to talk about the flaws. Now, it may come as a surprise to you, but this game is actually an indie game. The development team is no bigger than 30 people, and with an ambition as big as this one, there are gonna be some issues to deal with. For the most part, I found my time with Immortal to be fairly stable, but even after the latest patch, there are still a few things that could be addressed. Sometimes the game will just kick you out to the home screen. This happened to me like 3 times in 20 hours of gameplay, so I wasn't really that bothered. The game autosaves often enough that a quick reload and I was back in the action. Other issues are minor, like the loading screen flickering on the game starting and making some very nasty noises that sound like the game's going to crash at any moment. Luckily it hasn't yet on those screens, waiting for that one. I've also managed to get stuck inside enemies at certain points that resulted in a death, and also gotten stuck on scenery a couple of times too. But let me make this clear. None of these glitches are anywhere near as bad as some games I could mention. So why, oh why, did I persist with it? Is it the characters? Well, no, both character models look like men, aside from the female's breast bandages. Is it the music? It's nothing amazing, but it's not bad either. Is it the cutscenes and the voice acting? They are generic and serve their purpose. No, the reason why I've trudged through this from beginning to end is simply because I bloody love it. The guns feel beefy and you can upgrade them to do more damage, the melee hits feel tight and heavy, and overall I like the progression. It's also huge! You can easily sink 30 to 40 hours into the quest, and more if you want to beat all of the sub-bosses and find all of the hidden stuff. Pretend for a moment that Dark Souls doesn't exist. I know it's hard. Just try for a second. And this is the first time you've experienced gameplay like this. Aside from how damn difficult the game is, the shooting aesthetic really stands out to me as being different from only relying on close combat with just a sword and shield. That's very good, but this kind of does it a little bit better, I think. It adds a new aspect and difficulty to an already challenging style of game, and this will put a lot of people off, and it has, judging from all the low review scores dotted about. But based on my time with the game, here's my verdict. It's harsh, rage-inducing, interesting, feels satisfying to play, always keeps you on the edge of your seat, always increases its challenge throughout, it's long, has replay value with other playstyles, and overall, there's no egregious microtransactions or AAA industry bullshit marring every aspect of the experience. And they're not going to patch all the microtransactions in later and offer you a red dot site for $2, you fucking pricks. This is a pure hard as fuck slog from beginning to end, and will test your skill and patience in new ways, giving this a deserved 7 out of 10. So there you have it, a Souls clone for sure, but it feels different enough to stand out. Sometimes you'll hate it. I personally can't stop picking it up though, and I'm currently starting a third playthrough. It's certainly worth a low price, and it's worth a try if you're looking for something that's going to really challenge you. I'd say it's more than just another Souls game, and honestly, I think it deserves your time. Anyway, that's all from me. I've been Bren, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!